It's been months since we first uncovered the diary, since we first realized that Alyssa Kendall wasn't just a missing person, but a key to an entire web of secrecy and deceit. The pieces we've gathered have unraveled everything we thought we knew about the MiraCore program. And the truth has become even murkier, darker. But there's still one question that haunts us. Who is behind this? We have all the evidence. We have the testimonies. We have the classified documents. But there's one thing we still need, the final piece to the puzzle, the person who can connect all the dots. That person, we believed, was Agent Carmen Rhodes. She had always been one step ahead, yet now she's gone. Her last message an urgent, desperate confession. A confession that has only deepened the mystery. The city never sleeps, and neither do we. With every waking moment, the investigation presses harder. Each new lead reveals more and more about the monstrous undercurrent of the program. But we know we can't let the trail go cold. The woman who's been pulling the strings, the one who orchestrated this whole operation, is closer than we ever thought. And then, one night, just when we thought the pieces were finally clicking into place, everything changed. It was a tip delivered anonymously, of course. No name, no phone number, just a set of instructions and an address. The words on the note were simple. Meet me at the pier at 2 a.m. I have what you need. We didn't think twice. This was the breakthrough we'd been waiting for. This person, whoever they were, had the information we needed. But something didn't sit right. It never does when you're in too deep. The pier was desolate, bathed in the cold glow of the streetlights that flickered on and off like dying stars. It was exactly the kind of place where secrets were exchanged, where things were left in the dark, both literally and metaphorically. We arrived on time, our footsteps echoing off the wooden planks. The wind howled in the distance, and the salty air mixed with the taste of uncertainty. It was there, at the farthest end of the pier, that we saw her. A woman, cloaked in shadows, standing by the edge of the water. She looked out over the dark expanse, her face obscured, her posture rigid as if she were waiting for something or someone. Her voice cracked the silence first. "You're too late." The words sent a chill down our spine, even though we didn't know what to expect. We stepped closer, and she turned to face us, her face now illuminated by the dim light from the overhead lamp. Our breath caught in our throats. It was Claire. But this wasn't the same Claire we had seen in the medical files, the one from MiraCore's experiments. This was a different Claire. The woman before us didn't look like a victim. She looked like someone who had lived through it all, someone who had seen the other side of the looking glass. "I've been waiting for you," she said, her voice sharp and almost calculating. "I had to make sure you were ready." "Ready for what?" we asked, trying to mask the panic rising in our chest. "For the truth," she replied, her eyes glinting in the moonlight. "I know why you're here, but you're not going to like it." We listened as Claire slowly recounted the events that had shaped her life, the life she had lived under MiraCore's shadow. She spoke of the experiments, the brainwashing, the memories that weren't hers. She spoke of Alyssa's disappearance, of how the system was designed to replace people, to take them and erase them, only to put someone else in their place. She told us that she had been the original, the first prototype, the first person they had replaced. But the problem was, they hadn't expected her to survive. They hadn't expected her to remember. "I'm the product of their first mistake," Claire explained. "The first experiment to remember what they did. And when they realized it, they tried to fix it. They tried to replace me with someone else. And that's where Alyssa came in." Her face twisted in a strange mix of regret and anger. "They made me watch her," she said. "Alyssa was never supposed to be part of this. She was supposed to be like me, just a blank slate. But when they saw her reaction to the memory wiping, they knew they had to take a different approach. They had to create someone who wouldn't remember." We stood in stunned silence. For years, we had thought Alyssa was a victim, an innocent bystander in a monstrous experiment. But now, Claire's story painted an entirely different picture. Alyssa wasn't just a victim. She had been part of the plan all along, created to be the perfect replacement, a new identity forged in the wake of Claire's escape. But it didn't end there. Claire's voice grew quieter, more desperate. "They think they've won, but they haven't. They never thought I'd come back. But I did. And I remember everything. Her hand reached into her coat pocket, pulling out a small, folded piece of paper. She held it out toward us. "What's this?" we asked, barely able to comprehend the gravity of the moment. "It's the map," she whispered. "The last piece of the puzzle. It'll show you where to find the truth. But it'll also show you where to find the next one." We took the paper, our hands shaking. Before we could ask anything further, Claire's eyes darted to the far end of the pier. "They're here," she said, her voice suddenly filled with panic. A car's headlights swept through the fog, casting eerie shadows against the water. Claire turned and bolted toward the edge of the pier, her voice echoing behind her. "Go! Get out of here! It's not safe anymore." And just like that, she was gone. We stared at the piece of paper in our hand. A map, filled with coordinates we didn't recognize. A place we had to go, but a place where danger was already waiting. Who had been following us? Was this part of MiraCore's plan all along? The pieces were falling into place, slowly but not fast enough. The truth was just out of reach. And as we made our way back to the car, the cold wind biting at our skin, we realized one terrifying thing. There was still one final step. One last truth that, if we could uncover it, would expose everything. But would we make it out alive? The map Claire handed us was our only clue now. We had no choice but to follow its cryptic instructions. But there was something about that moment, the urgency in her voice, the fear in her eyes, that told us that whatever lay ahead wasn't just another piece of the puzzle. It was the final piece. We didn't waste time. The city seemed quieter than usual, the streets emptier. The map led us to an isolated area on the outskirts of town, a place we'd never even heard of before. The coordinates didn't make sense. Hidden deep in a forgotten industrial zone, far from the typical hustle of urban life. The location was strange enough, but the chill in the air, the tension that seemed to hang in the silence of the night, made it all the more unsettling. We arrived just before dawn, the gray sky above barely holding back the night's last vestiges of darkness. The area was desolate. Abandoned warehouses lined the road, some half-collapsed, others boarded up, all covered in layers of dirt and grime. The map had pinpointed one specific building, Warehouse 13. Warehouse 13, we muttered, staring up at the crumbling structure. We could barely make out the words on the rusted sign, but there was no mistaking it. The place was anything but normal. Felt like something was being hidden here, something dangerous. We approached cautiously, moving toward the side door that seemed to have been recently used. No lights, no sounds, no sign of anyone, but it was clear that someone had been here. A single tire track in the dirt, footprints that didn't match ours. Inside the warehouse, the air was thick with dust. The silence was suffocating. Our footsteps echoed, unnatural in the vast emptiness of the space. Boxes, crates, and old equipment were scattered throughout, though most were either empty or unused. But it was the farthest corner that caught our attention. A heavy steel door, sealed with a series of locks, stood at the back of the warehouse. There were no windows, no way to look inside. But there was one thing we did notice. On the door was a symbol. It was the same symbol we had seen on the files connected to MiraCore. The same symbol from the diary. And suddenly, everything clicked. "It's real, isn't it?" The words escaped us before we could stop them. This wasn't just some conspiracy theory. This wasn't just a cover-up. This was the heart of it, the very place where everything had been created, where the operations had started. This was MiraCore's headquarters. We could feel the weight of what we were about to uncover. Our hearts raced as we realized just how much danger we were in. But there was no turning back now. The locks were difficult but not impossible to break. With one final pull, the steel door creaked open, revealing a narrow hallway that led into the depths of the building. We couldn't see much, but as we walked down the dark corridor, something felt off. Every step we took seemed to reverberate through the building. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a warning. We pressed on, driven by the need to uncover the truth, even if it meant risking everything. The hallway ended in another door, this one much sturdier than the last. No locks, just a simple keypad. We didn't have time to waste. If we didn't act fast, someone else would get there first. Do you know the code? We whispered. The person who'd given us the map, the mysterious witness, had warned us. This was it. But we didn't have time to figure out all the details. In an act of pure instinct, we punched in the number we had seen earlier on the map, a sequence of digits that didn't make sense but felt like they were somehow connected. 5-7-2-3-8. The door clicked open. Inside, the room was nothing like we expected. It wasn't a lab. It wasn't a control center. It was a small, clinical space, its white walls harsh under the fluorescent lights. There was a single desk with a chair. On the desk sat several folders, all filled with paperwork. Names, faces, details that looked familiar but not quite. One file stood out. It was marked with the same symbol from the map, the same one Claire had mentioned. The file was sealed with a red stamp, one that read "Confidential, for internal use only." Our hands shook as we opened the folder. Inside, the first page was a list. A list of names, Alyssa Kendall at the top. Each name on the list had a corresponding date. Dates of disappearance. The dates they'd been replaced. And then we saw it. At the bottom of the list, there was one name. It wasn't Alyssa's. It was Claire's. The file was incomplete. There were more pages, but they were blurred, scribbled over with black ink, hiding the information. But that one name, the name of the woman who had been watching us, the woman who had given us the map, had been the last person to be replaced. She was the original. She had been the first. And now she was missing again. The weight of this discovery hit us like a ton of bricks. It was more than we ever imagined. MiraCore didn't just replace people. They erased them entirely, rewrote their memories, created new identities. But why was Claire the key? Why was she still out there, playing this dangerous game? And more importantly, where was she now? We knew we had to find her before it was too late. She had all the answers. But there was no time to waste. Someone or something was following us. We heard a sound from behind us. A faint noise, like footsteps. Before we could react, the lights flickered, and the room went dark. The last thing we remember was a cold voice, so cold it made our skin crawl. "We've been expecting you." And then, everything went black. The darkness swallowed us whole. We didn't know how long we were out. It felt like hours, but time had no meaning in that suffocating void. When we finally regained consciousness, we were no longer in the cold, sterile room. The walls were different now, darker, oppressive, like the inside of a cave. And the air, it was thick, damp, as if we were underground. We weren't alone. "Welcome back," the voice said. It was the same cold, detached tone we'd heard earlier. But this time, it was closer, much closer. "You should have stayed away." The figure emerged from the shadows. It was a man, tall, well-dressed, but there was something about his eyes. They were empty, like he had long ago lost the capacity for empathy. His cold smile only added to the unsettling atmosphere. "You've come too far," he continued. "But it's too late now. You've seen the files. You've seen everything. Now you understand the price of knowing the truth." The man stepped into the dim light, his face illuminated briefly by the glow of a nearby security camera. It was then we saw it. His face was not just familiar. It was identical to the photos we had seen on the files. He wasn't the original. He was one of the many who had been replaced. "Who are you?" we demanded, our voice shaky but defiant. "What have you done with Claire?" The man's eyes narrowed. His lips curled into that same chilling smile. "Ah, Claire, you think she's the answer to everything. But she isn't. She never was. She was always the first, the prototype, the one we needed to perfect the process. But now she's a liability. And that's why she's gone. Just like the others." The room seemed to close in on us. Every word the man spoke felt like it was tightening a noose around our neck. We had always known there was something off about MiraCore. But this was something darker, something we hadn't prepared for. "We knew this day would come," the man said, almost as if he were speaking to himself. "But it doesn't matter. The process is complete. The system is in place. The replacements are everywhere, and no one will ever know. Not unless you want to join them. A chill ran down our spine. He was talking about Claire, but we could feel the weight of his words pressing down on us. He wasn't just talking about her. He was talking about us, and anyone else who dared to seek the truth. Suddenly, the sound of a door creaking open cut through the tense atmosphere. A figure stepped into the room. Familiar, but wrong. We blinked, trying to adjust to the new arrival. It was Claire, or at least it looked like her. But something was different. The woman who walked toward us now was no longer the person we had met in the beginning. There was no recognition in her eyes. No warmth. She was distant, cold, and detached. "You're too late," she said, her voice flat, emotionless. "They've already won." But then, something shifted. Her eyes flickered, a brief moment of vulnerability. A split second where the real Claire seemed to break through the cold mask. She turned to us, her expression suddenly filled with urgency. "Leave. Now. It's not me. It never was," she whispered quickly, her eyes darting nervously toward the man in the shadows. "They've been watching us. They've been controlling us. All along." Before we could respond, the man stepped forward, blocking Claire from our view. "Enough of this," he said, his voice now a low growl. "This ends here." But Claire, the real Claire, wasn't done. In a move that took us by complete surprise, she lunged toward a nearby panel on the wall and slammed her hand onto a red button. The lights blinked out, and for a moment, everything was plunged into pitch darkness. There was a noise, static, a low hum, followed by a loud bang, the sound of metal scraping against metal. Something was happening. Something we didn't fully understand, but it was clear now. This was the moment of reckoning. The man cursed under his breath and stepped back. "What are you doing? You're ruining everything." But it was too late. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed, and a voice crackled over the intercom. "Security breach detected. Initiating lockdown procedure." We didn't know what was happening, but Claire's face now looked human again. There was no more fear in her eyes. No more detachment. She was alive, and she was finally free from whatever manipulation had been done to her. But there was something else, something terrifying. "I've already made my decision," Claire said quietly. "And now, so have you." Before we could ask what she meant, the door to the room opened. It wasn't the man who had been watching us. It was someone else, someone familiar. It was Alyssa. To be continued. Final notes. The mystery surrounding Claire, the true purpose of MiraCore, and the strange events surrounding the replacements have all come to a head. Alyssa's reappearance, after everything that had transpired, paves the way for even more shocking revelations in the next chapter.